Hi Aries, how are you? Here is your August 2017 reading. So I'm just gonna get right into the reading. Last month I was doing this thing where I would kind of go over the astrology first and then get into the reading. And I've kind of gone over the astrology and what's happening for Aries, but it's more so I more so want to get into the reading, and then if the astrology feels pertinent to the reading, then I want to talk about it, which I most likely will, seeing as though we have the lunar and the solar eclipse. So let's go ahead and get into the reading. Off the bat, High Priestess. This is good. This is good, nice general energy to have as the first card out. So the High Priestess. Some of you, and we have the lunar eclipse is occurring in your, and it's going to be a full moon in Aquarius happening in your 11th house, your house of friends, benefactors, group associations, hopes and dreams, wishes, things of that nature. And so, with this High Priestess energy, maybe all of you, a lot of Aries possibly feeling a lot more connected to themselves intuitively, to their intuitive nature, to their emotional nature, maybe taking a step back, right? Because Aries is a very self-assertive, action-oriented, I am here, hear me roar kind of energy. And so this energy is a little bit more passive. And I think this is definitely, this is energy, right? The continuation of sort of what was going on in July. When Mars was combust the sun. Mars basically was eclipsed the sun last month, in July. And basically when a planet, is combust, or is eclipsed by the sun, or is, kind of so close to the sun that it kind of goes beyond that point of being conjunct and it's now combust. The energy of that planet, the energies, the symbolisms, whatever, the energies of that planet are sort of devoured by the rays of the sun. And so with Mars going combust and Mars being your ruling planet, and Mars being a planet that has to do with, our will, our willpower, what we do, how we assert ourselves, the actions that we take, our anger, things of that nature, right? And so with Mars sort of being devoured by the rays of the sun, there was a lot more of turning towards this sort of passive energy, right? The High Priestess is, she's all knowing, but she doesn't necessarily, she kind of sits back and she looks at everybody and everything, and she knows that she knows better, for the most part, but really doesn't make it a point to step out and say, you're wrong and I'm right and here's why, right? It's more of, it's her knowing is not at all attached to her ego, right? Her knowing and being right has nothing to do with her being able to assert her ego. So definitely with this High Priestess energy, feeling more aligned with your intuitive self, maybe your psychic self, not feeling, yeah. I think there was a lot of things, there was a lot of work, there was a lot of burdens, right, that were being carried. Yeah. A situation where you were it's like taking on too much, right? Taking on too much in the name of trying to fill and feed the ego. Ace of Pentacles. This is what's going on so far for you all. And then the Chariot. Sorry, my computer froze, so let's get back with the reading. Luckily, it saved the first part of your reading. But yeah, so the Chariot, A struggle with, what direction do I take? A struggle with what path, right? And that energy being very real, right? Because there is this opposition happening between your 5th and your 11th house. And so the relationship that I'm seeing here and what I'm feeling here is that we have, this high priestess energy, which, it's like I said before, it can be a bit passive, is a bit, has her knowledge is not at all attached to her ego, right? And then we have this 10 of Wands here, which to me represents a situation where, there is hard work and burdens that are being taken on, right? There are burdens that are being there are burdens that are being taken on, but that, this figure is not, front and center, and is not like, this person is working very hard. This person has their head down. This person really isn't doing this work, like I said before, to gain any kind of accolades or to gain any kind of recognition. And we are in Leo, right? So Leo being this sign that really, likes, wants the rays of the sun to be shining down upon, right? Can definitely get down and work hard, but wants to sort of have recognition for that work. And, when we're talking about the 11th house, when we're talking about a lunar eclipse, a full moon in your 11th house, that and the 11th house being that space in a chart, right? Being that astrological space at home of benefactors, of group associations. And not only that, but when we think of Aquarius, right? Aquarius is the sign that, while Leo wants to shine, right, in the limelight, Aquarius is more interested in how can I be one with the group? How can I allow the group to shine as a whole versus myself, right? And what is the work, right? What are the burdens that we take on? And what is the work that happens when we know, right? When we have, these powers, or when we have these abilities, or when we put in this work, but it's not necessarily, reaping, it's not really being, recognized, or we're not receiving accolades for. Like, how does that, like, what does it feel like to do that kind of work, right? And so, and 10s also representing the end of a cycle, right? And it's like the work, what is the work? What are the things that you've done in the 11th house, right? Like, maybe you've been a part of a group, or you've, teamed up with people, and you've provided a lot of information, right? You've been a huge bank of knowledge, right? For this group that you've been a part of, whether it's for work or just for, social causes or social reasons, right? Being a part of a group that you definitely sort of knew, right? Like, you knew that you just knew things intuitively, right? Like, you knew that you just had the information, you knew what was right. You were thinking, right, beyond, you were very intuitively connected to whatever work that you were doing, right? And you knew that this was, you just knew it, and you worked really hard, you put your head down, you didn't look up, you didn't ask for, any recognition or accolades for that work, right? But, so there was, definitely, speaking of a situation where you really put forth your best, put out your best hand, and really showed up and worked worked your ass off in a group situation, in a social situation, within a social dynamic, right? And that coming to an end, right? Because again, we're talking about a full moon, a lunar eclipse in your 11th house, right? Endings, culmination. So maybe this group association is ending, right? Maybe, maybe you learned, right? You learned the lessons. You collected all 10 of these wands and you walked through all the lessons that each and every single one of these wands has to offer you. And you worked hard. And you worked hard and you worked hard in the name of the group. You worked hard in the name of bettering this organization, this business, this company, whatever situation you were a part of, right? Like you really tried to be a team player. And being an Aries, it's not so much the same as being a Leo, where like with a Leo, it's, how can I, allow my skills and my talents and my abilities to give me, front and center, right? Or to put me out front and center. Whereas Aries is more based, they're setting off firecrackers outside. But I don't know if you can hear it or not, but, and now they're revving motorcycles. Great. But, Leo, the dynamic with the energy of Leo is that of the performer, right? It's like, how can, how can I express myself? How can I express my talents, my abilities? Whereas Aries is like, how can I assert myself and assert myself alone? How can I write that first house of that house of ultimate independence, that house of that relationship to self, where self comes first, self-preservation is most important. And so to be in this energy where you're doing this work, right, for the betterment of a group dynamic, of a group situation, computer's lagging, of a group association, right? That not really being a comfortable zone for Aries, whereas an Aries is more prone to want to kind of go off on their own, so to speak, right? And so, with this, and again, with this high priestess energy here, Aries is incredibly self-asserting, right? The archetype of Aries is a self-asserting archetype, right? And to have this energy pop up, this sort of passive, all-knowing, but yet not, like, I don't even know if passive is really the right word to describe the high priestess, but, I'll use it, right? For the sake of not wanting to sit here with a blank, in silence with a blank stare on my face trying to figure out another word, right? But it's like the high priestess being this energy that is so intuitively connected to source and to her own highest self, right? And knows so much and has so many answers, but also just is like, I don't need to be right. I don't need to be right. I don't need to assert myself. I don't need to be the best, right? And so I see, a situation where there was, you definitely put the group before yourself, so to speak, right? And with that ending, right, with this kind of this coming to a close, and with this new, and also in engaging and in doing this behavior, right, and in having the willingness to be in that 11th house energy and allow yourself to be, and allow the group to shine before you, or allow the group to assert itself before you, right? That there is learning in that, right? And there are opportunities that come from that. And this, to me, I really do feel represents what's kind of going on in your 5th house, right? Now in the 5th house, we have the solar eclipse, which is going to be the new moon in Leo on August 21st. And that's new beginnings, new cycles, new things happening, new fresh energy, right? And so with this Ace of Pentacles in your 5th house, and it's really about how you find your own inner voice. Like, how do you allow your own voice to express itself, right? Like in this card, this figure, this character in this card, is, it's sort of, is putting the voice of all of these responsibilities, right? Putting the voice of this work before his own voice, right? Like the work that needs to get done here is way more important than himself, and it's way more important than him, than his, than his enjoyment, than his leisure or relaxation, right? These are two very different, these people in these two cards are doing very, very different things, right? And Leo is, being that fifth house energy, creativity, joy, children, the inner child. Where are you instilling or having joy, right? Like new beginnings in that fifth house department, as we see an ending in your sort of self-sacrifice in the name of the group, right? Now we're moving in, like, what's the relationship between these two sort of situations here, right? And in finding your own expressive voice, and in finding your own joy, finding a new beginning, right? A new tangible beginning, maybe a new creative project, a new financial project that is creative in nature, right? That then, has the ability for you to create your own individual wealth and abundance, right? Which, and we both need these energies, right? We need to experience being within a group dynamic where, our own wants and desires are not at the forefront, and we're putting in work and blood, sweat, and tears in the name of a group, right? And, we're allowing ourselves to connect to others emotionally and intuitively. Maybe we get to be a little bit passive and not so, and we just get to put our heads down and work in humility, right? Versus, right, okay, I'm going off and I'm creating my own. I'm creating on my own. I'm creating with my own voice, with my own vision in mind. Nobody else's. It's my own vision, right? My own creativity. And in that, I create my own abundance and my own wealth that I'm willing to share, but nonetheless, it's mine, right? So let's see what else is coming up for you all, for Aries, for August. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So Seven of Wands. Don't try so hard. Don't try so hard to... If there's something that you are trying to manifest, if there's something that you are trying to create and bring forth, chances are when we're fighting for it, when we're putting in effort and we're fighting for things, this energy gets disrupted, right? This natural, and this to me, like the Magician, is a very Aries energy. And I believe this Aries card came out for you all during your July reading. But this to me is the Aries card. It's the manifester, right? You all are the great manifestors. You all have the ability to see what you want and make it happen, right? But, a situation where you're trying to stay on top of things, you are trying to maintain balance, you're trying to, there are competitors, and Aries is a very competitive sign. Aries it's not, y'all are number one, right? Y'all are fighters. Y'all will do what you need to do to stay on top. But don't abuse that power, right? Let me clarify these. Well, I'm going to do that again because that was a lot. Clarification for Seven of Wands and the Magician. Why are they here for Aries? Clarification for Seven of Wands and the Magician. So this Chariot. So we're going to try this again. My computer froze again, and I can even start to see the video lagging again. And so I had to walk away and eat something. And now it's raining, so the fire has been cooled off a little bit. Got some cooling waters, and so it's gotten a little bit dark. Now I have to have this shitty light on. I'm sorry. But nonetheless, I wanted to finish your reading. And so I think where we last left off, I was pulling a clarifier for these two cards, and the Chariot popped out. So, and you know, we have this, now we have the Magician and the High Priestess, right? So we have these two opposing energies that are occurring. And, you know, you're having this, you know, you're having the full moon, new moon, like happening in opposing signs that have to do with Leo and Aquarius, right? And so right now we're in this Leo-Aquarius opposition that's going on. And so the Seven of Wands, right? It's like trying to stay on top of things, trying to maintain composure, trying to keep oneself, you know, trying to keep oneself sort of in this position, trying to maintain this status as the Magician, and feeling as though you have to work really hard to maintain this sort of, because I really do view like Aries as the Magician in the sense that, you know, if there are things, if there's a certain something that you want to go forth, you go forth and you charge it, and you are so self-assertive in the sense that you get what you want. You get what you want, right? And so you are able to sort of manifest and bring forth things on the material plane. And a lot of the times because you are able to exert your will, and you're able to exert, you know, what it is, like you're able to exert your desires, and you're able to exert what it is, your energy and your force, right, into the physical plane. And so along with this Seven of Wands and this Chariot, you know, clarifying these two cards, you know, what control are you trying to hold on to right now? Do you know what I mean? What is it? You know, because when I see these two cards, I see two archetypes that are trying to maintain control and trying to maintain balance. But then when I look at this card, I look at it like behind the scenes, what's really going on underneath this Magician and this Chariot card is that I'm witnessing somebody really trying to hang on and hold on to something, trying to maintain that first, you know, that I'm the number one, I am on top. And, you know, with Leo energy, Leo is like, you know, like, yeah, like, you know, this woman in the Nine of Pentacles, she's independent, she's on her own, but she could also give, you know, she could really care less if, you know, she's so secure, right, in her position and in her status. She's so secure in what she's cultivated for herself that she's not sitting over here, you know, trying to defend and trying to protect all that she's built, right? And so it's like, if you are in this mentality that like, oh my God, I've worked so hard. Oh my God, I've done all of this and I have to maintain this status here and I have to do, and you're trying to gain control, right? And like trying to utilize this fellow fire energy to like create, like, it's not, you know, you're only stressing yourself out, right? Like and Aries, like, don't forget, you know, as fiery and as, you know, as fiery, yeah, you know, I see this hermit as like, you know, what's going on with Virgo right now? Well, we have Mercury in Virgo, right? So what are you recognizing? Like, and like with this Page of Pentacles that again is coming up for a lot of signs this month, And this page, I feel like, is a very lighthearted, look at value and look at what you've created. And in a sense that like really speaks to this Nine of Pentacles, right? In a sense that's like, this person is really trying to protect and guard what they've just had to go through. But like he's losing his balance. The shirt, I think, is, he's got, tears in his clothing. Well, I mean, that's just what I would imagine, right? He's like fighting for his life. He's like fighting for his life right now, And so with this Hermit card, it's, the question is more so like, what is, are you listening? Are you spending a lot of your time trying to exert your will and your power externally, or are you actually allowing yourself to turn inward and to acknowledge the wisdom and the power that you have inward, right? Like in like what are you, like, what knowledge, what understanding, what how are you looking at this energy? How are you looking at your life force differently, right? Are you viewing your life force as something that you constantly need to be in defense of and constantly need to try and control? Or actually, are you viewing it as something that is more based in spirituality? Light went out. Okay. Right? Can I get clarification for this Justice card and for the Justice card? I just want clarification for Justice. Yeah, how are you? Oh, that's a lot. Hanged Man. Again, it's like I keep seeing like all the majors that are coming up are these real passive energies, but they're energies that are super wise and have perspective, right? That see things differently, that see the beauty in the passivity, that see the beauty in actually sitting still for a moment. And like what enlightenment comes when you sit still and you just listen, right? And sometimes when we give ourselves, right, this Hangman came out with this six of swords, right? And possibly this also representing, an actual situation where again, going back to this 11th house sort of self-sacrifice in the name of the group, sort of energy that Aquarius has, right? And that we do this work, we do our work, we work hard, and we don't make it a point to stand out, and we don't make it a point to be number one, right? We don't do this, right? We try to harmonize as best as we can. Right, and in the name of the group, right? And so it's like this idea of like playing the martyr, right? But and not allowing yourself to really, not allowing yourself to be so tied into that sort of archetype. But I definitely see, and I asked for these cards in clarification of the Justice, right? Of the Justice card. And Justice representing, again, like an energy to me that is assertive, but not in this same kind of, not in the way of the Chariot or the Emperor, right? The Justice card is definitely assertive, and Justice asserts her power and asserts her will, but in a way that is only if it's in the benefit of balancing out, only if it's in the benefit of balancing out karma, right? And so with these cards clarifying justice, right, we have the Hanged Man, that maybe there was something that, you felt persecuted for, a way of being, a way of doing something that felt, feeling stagnant. I just heard feeling stagnant, feeling immobile, feeling that you have your hands tied behind your back. But like in doing that, in these different ways that you've had either your head down or your hands tied behind your back, or you can't move, or you can't, like, just feeling as though there are different parts of you that have been cut off from actually being able to mobilize and to move. But in that stagnation, right? And the hanged man hangs upside down, and in his hanging upside down, he sees things differently. He sees things through a different perspective. And this new perspective, actually clearing up old patterns, old ways of thinking, old ways of being that have plagued you, right? Journeying to calmer waters, journeying to safer mental territory, and feeling balanced out. And I do see this as you all, right? And so I see a move, right? I mean, it's the Six of Wands, so it's one less, right? It's kind of, but I see a move from this energy into this energy. So it's a more graceful, it's not, when you're constantly trying to, fight for all that you have here, it doesn't, you actually end up, creating a situation where you're not moving anywhere. You're just exhausting yourself so much that even if you did win this, you'd be too exhausted to do anything about it. Can I get more clarification I want more clarification on justice. Clarification on justice. Yeah. Nine of Swords. Things that we're worried about. Things that we ruminate over. Things that keep us up at night. I definitely feel that there might be a legal situation that some of you all are dealing with. A legal situation, a situation regarding contracts, regarding marriage, regarding how you have really shown up, quite possibly in your one-on-one partnerships, right? Justice being Libra, right? So how have you shown up in your one-on-one relationships, right? And I think some of you feel as though you're being held sort of on trial, right? By either partners, or maybe you actually are enduring an actual legitimate trial at the moment. But definitely the sense of feeling that in your one-on-one relationships, in your partnerships, that there is this air that, there is this sentiment that Aries feels, right? That it's being sort of singled out or called out, and that in that calling out, this feeling of like, feeling like the martyr, feeling like you are sort of on trial or being persecuted, whether it's for your beliefs of how one-on-one relationships should operate, or whether you feel it's fair or not fair, that's what the feeling is, right? That's what the feeling is that there is some guilt, there is some, and you're worried, right? There's some worry that this isn't going to balance itself out, that this, whatever this represents, whether it's an actual trial, whether it's, represents a contract, whether it represents a relationship, a one-on-one seventh house partnership, right? Fear, right? That the thing, whatever's happening, right, in this situation it's you're worried about it. It's keeping you up. It's not, you're worried that it's not going to turn out the way that you want it to. I think that it will. But for me, the Six of Swords, it's like the beginning of healing. It's the beginning. It's not, it's not, healing in and of itself. It's the journey and the move towards, healing waters. It's that move. It's the desire. And it's like you and this other person, right? You and this other person, there's like a small child there, but we're just going to stick to you and this other person, right? Like there's work to be done. There's balancing out that needs to happen and feeling uncomfortable, right? Like Aries is not comfortable when it comes to these one-on-one partnerships. And this Two of Pentacles, even though he's balancing these pentacles, it's a very awkward sort of balancing act. It's a very, very awkward sort of balancing act. And so, for an Aries to step forth and to step into seventh house energy of like, okay, I'm going to now balance out these two energies. I'm going to balance out, and what's happening in your seventh house, Libra's in your seventh house and we have Jupiter there, right? So Jupiter being in Libra, in your seventh house, how are we like, there's added benefits, there's added luck and love and growth and expansion in your seventh house. It's like your seventh house is getting kind of glammed out right now by Jupiter. But in order for that process to happen, right, in order for that to happen, in order for Jupiter to really do what it needs to do in your seventh house, which is, in Libra, Libra's going to come in and ask you, well, how are you harmonizing, Aries, the archetype of the first house and the archetype of relationship to self, right? How are we balancing out and how are we harmonizing with other people? And yes, right? Like, we get it, Aries. You're really hardworking. You're really independent and self-assertive, and you go forth and you charge, and you don't wait for anybody. But you don't wait for anybody. But sometimes that can cause discord. That can cause situations in personal one-on-one relationships that, then it's like now you have to figure out how the two of you can move into these healing waters together. And then still, how can we balance the ups and downs of my needs and your needs, of my self-assertion and your self-assertion, of the assertion of us as a couple, or, whatever it may be. So you and Pisces both are getting these readings where I feel like there's multiple sort of stories going on, multiple messages coming through. Yeah. There's victory in harmonizing. There is, right? There's victory in the harmonizing. There's humility, right? In being able to come. So we have the Nine of Wands. So you have Nine of Wands, Wheel of Fortune, and the Star. The Star, that full moon happening in Aquarius once again. This Nine of Wands energy, I just get tired looking at this card sometimes. Like this, there's so much work. There's so much that you all have fought for. There's so much that you all feel like you've burdened yourself with in the name of, in the name of trying to better the group, right? And it's like, but at the same time, the 11th house is not just about the work that we do to benefit the group or the work that we do meanwhile staying in the background, like what's while all of the success is happening right, for the in the background, this is what's really happening behind the scenes, right? But we're not going to say anything about it. But we're not going to say anything about it, because that's just, there's suffering, there's learning in this suffering, right? But it's like, we get it. We totally understand that that's what the 11th house is about. But the 11th house is also about, it's also about good fortune. It's also about hopes and dreams and wishes coming to fruition. It's about, getting the thing, the things for the future that we want. And as you shift, right, away from these energies of having to go to battle, having to really be in this energy of like controlling and, feeling like you have to move into these healing waters, right? I do see really beautiful things. This Wheel of Fortune followed by this Star card, right? The things that you ask for and you hope for definitely coming to fruition, definitely, but not having to do the most, right? Not having to do the most to try and get these things to manifest. Yeah, things for the hopes and dreams for the future. My hopes and my dreams and my wishes for the future, Can I get an outcome card for Aries for August 2017? Outcome card for Aries, August 2017. Queen of Cups. Allowing yourself to, once again, really observe. I feel like it's all tying back in, right? With the first card that came out was this High Priestess. Who this High Priestess is, she's very much in touch with her emotions. It's like a Cancer card for me, right? She's psychic, she's intuitive, and you only tap into that energy once you've allowed yourself to really be in touch with your emotions, your feelings, what's happening for you psychologically, right? And I see this Queen of Cups as, this is somebody who's doing that. She is definitely learning, or, she's mastering the art of being attuned with her own emotions and understanding where her emotions come from and understanding how to respect them and to respond to them and to not ignore them. She's not ignoring her feelings. She's recognizing them, and she's actually giving, she's aware of them. She's aware of her feelings, right? It's like that Cancer, when it's like the Cancer motto is I feel, right? That I am now initially in touch with how I feel emotionally and what's going on with me. So that is your reading, Aries, for August 2017. Sorry I had to stop it and restart it so many times. And sorry if it's disjointed. You and Pisces are got some disjointed messages. Or not disjointed, just different messages for different Aries. So if you'd like a personal reading with me, you can contact me at tattoosandtarot@gmail.com, or you can go to my personal website, which is tattoosandtarot.com, and click on the reading section. And I will see you all in September. All right, bye, Aries.